Welcome back to Digital Wandering, and this video is going to be all about the iPad mini. What we have in front of us here on camera is the iPad mini first generation from 2012, and the main star of the show today will be the iPad mini from 2019, the fifth generation. So I have the first and last iPad minis, and represents 2/3 of the iPads that I have. I have 3 iPads altogether. But I want to explain why I like the iPad mini so much and why I think it's one of the best computing devices. In fact, if I had to be limited to just one computing device, now if you watch this channel enough, you see that I use everything. I use Mac OS, I use iOS, I use iPad OS, I use Windows, I use Android, I use Ubuntu Touch. I use everything. I'm not really satisfied with using one device. But if I was forced to give up on all the devices that I have and just use one device only, I believe that device I would pick would be the iPad mini. And I want to explain why I would pick this device over all others. I just think it's a really great computing device. And although there's compromises, I think the benefits of using this device, if I had to just use just one, outweigh all the other options that I could use. Now, I only use mobile computing devices for my needs. So that's laptops, smartphones, and tablet computers. I don't use desktop computers at all. So everything that I use is mobile in a sense. So this is just a comparison from the different mobile options, not counting like wearables, like smartwatches. I haven't really used those much. I do have a one smartwatch that I have used, but it's just not a category that really I have a need for at this time, even though I think it's definitely something that's worthwhile, and I probably will get into it in the future. So we're just looking again, this is just laptop computers, smartphones, and tablets that I'm comparing, and I think the iPad mini is the best. Now, what are those reasons? And I'm just going to go into a lot of different reasons and not really in any order. And as you probably know, I've said it before, my videos are unscripted. So hopefully I'm going to be able to remember all the key points here. But let's just go into it. One of the things that's really beneficial to using this, especially over a smartphone, is the screen real estate that you have, the display size. This is like 7.9 inches, so basically, or close to 8 inches of screen size here. That's going to be a lot larger than you get in any smartphone. So with this size, it's just a much more immersive experience in using things like viewing websites, any type of media, visual media like photos, video. Just looks a lot better on this screen because of the size and also the quality of the screen. The iPad screens are pretty good, and everything just pops more on this screen size than it does on a normal smartphone. And so that's one thing that I just find this much more comfortable to use than a smartphone. Also, you do have the benefits of just about the same amount of apps and the same apps that you use on a smartphone on this device. So you don't really lose out on anything that you use on a smartphone for the most part. And you also have apps that are designed just for the iPad. So it's really a great mobile experience, and you have this greater screen space that you don't have on a smartphone. I also find the camera here. I find that the camera on this device is really satisfactory, and you probably don't hear this much on tablets, but it is a fairly decent experience on this device. The rear camera, and especially in good and not even not so good lighting conditions, the photos are pretty good. I would probably compare it to like a flagship smartphone of maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago is the quality that you get here. So I find that fairly satisfactory. You also have the front-facing camera, and it does a neat little trick here. I won't actually take a front-facing photo today, but it does do a neat little trick where it doesn't have a dedicated flash, but it will light up the display in such a way that it sends a bright light to your face. So it does add a flash effect. So it actually takes good front-facing photos as well. Now, some other things that are also good about this device is that it has, the model that I have has 256 gigabytes of storage space, so that's very satisfactory and for pretty much all my needs. 256 is definitely a good starting place, and I hope to have that at least that amount going forward. I can make do with less, and you've seen on certain devices that I'm using have a lot less than that on this that I've shown on this channel previously. But that is a really good amount, especially for media consumption, because one of the main things I do with my mobile devices is media consumption. So having a lot of space, I can have a lot of media saved on the device locally. That means that I can have like really high definition videos and things like that. I can have a huge number of photos on here. So having a lot of space like that is really usable. And this is the cellular model. So it also provides with, so I can have data on the go. I mean, you can buy this with just as the Wi-Fi only model, but I always get the cellular model when I'm getting a tablet. If that tablet has a cellular model, some tablets are just Wi-Fi only. But if it offers cellular, I'm always going to go for that because you never know when you're going to need it, and you're not dependent on Wi-Fi or maybe using another, like a smartphone as a hotspot. So I always try to get the cellular model. So this is really, it gives you data on the move, just the same as you would have with a smartphone. Now, I do want to also talk about how portable this device is. It's very lightweight. You can easily hold it with one hand. And in fact, I can actually grip it with one hand, as you can see right here. I can hold it and hold it fairly tightly. I mean, I could shake this with the one hand grip, and this is not going anywhere. But though, you know, you're going to use it mostly with two hands. And this is even like increasingly the case even with smartphones. They've gotten so big now that even like flagship smartphones tend to be over 6 inches now. So you're going to have to pretty much, when in use, using it with two hands. So this is not really that different than most modern smartphones. But it is very light, and you can hold it with one hand very easily. This is small enough that it can actually still fit into like jacket pockets and coat pockets when in season. Out of season, you're probably going to have a bag to carry this in, but it is still fairly lightweight and portable. Much more lightweight and portable than what you'll find in like a laptop or a larger tablet. Like, for example, this is a 2018 iPad. And I don't know if the angle, you really get the sense of the size and difference between this 2018 iPad, which is about 9.7 inches, and this iPad mini. Let's see if we can just show the difference there in the size. So you may be able to see that. It may come through here for you. And there's now this is still on paper, very small and lightweight. Just about all the mobile devices that we have now are really small and lightweight. Even like our laptop computers are fairly small and lightweight, especially compared to the stuff that we used in the past. But there's somewhere in between this size and weight and this, because this is it's less than twice the weight and size of this. But somewhere in there, it makes a big difference. Like I can really feel this. Just holding it in my hand, you can really feel the weight difference. And when I put this 2018 in a bag, like when I'm carrying it, you really feel this in bag. The weight and the size, it causes just enough displacement in the bag where you actually feel the weight profile of this device. So something this size or bigger, you really feel it when you're carrying it around. This has about the weight and size profile of a paperback book, and you can, as I've said, you can carry it in a jacket pocket or put it in a bag, and it just gets lost in there, and it doesn't take up a lot of space, and the weight, it just feels like nothing. So this is much more comfortable. Also, when using these, one of the things that's about this is like you can use this in any orientation or in any multiple different types of situation. I can be sitting, I could be walking, I could be standing, I could be laying down flat on my back and be using this just like you use a smartphone, and it's very comfortable to use in just about all different types of situations. You can use that with a bigger tablet like the 2018 or iPad Pro. But one thing I noticed is if I'm laying flat on my back and I have the iPad mini, and say I'm reading a book, an ebook on here, it's just much more comfortable to hold when I'm on my back and I have the iPad in my hands above me. It's very easy to, in that position, to use the iPad mini. It's just much more comfortable. There's no arm strain. With this, it's bigger and there's more arm strain. And since it's bigger, it's harder to hold in that position. So sometimes you will lose your grip and this larger iPad will fall. And when you're in that position, you're laying flat on your back, it will fall on your chest. And this, at this size and this size and weight, it doesn't really hurt, but it's uncomfortable. With the iPad mini in that position, I almost never lose my grip on this. It's so much easier to hold and it weighs so much less. But in the few situations where I do lose my grip and this falls like flat on my chest, it's no discomfort. It doesn't really hurt. It doesn't do anything as compared to this larger device. So yeah, it's just much more comfortable to hold this than the larger device. And just much more easier to use. For example, a laptop, you can really only use it in one position, like flat on a flat surface like a desk. Although it's meant to be portable, and you can put it in a bag, has a much greater weight profile, and you can only use it flat really effectively flat on the surface. Like you're not going to be carrying around your laptop and using it in most case scenarios. At least I don't use it in that way. So just much more easier to use this in a lot of different situations, the iPad mini. Also, with a laptop, you don't have that cellular connectivity option. There are a few laptops that do offer cellular connectivity, but it's not something that's normal. Most do not offer it. You just have to either have a wire connection or you have to connect to Wi-Fi or have another device that you can use as a hotspot. With this, you can use it either on Wi-Fi or cellular if you purchase that cellular option like I did here. So it's just a lot of different ways that you can use this. Also, this is going to have better cameras than most. This iPad mini is going to have better cameras than just about most laptops. Laptop cameras tend not to be that great. So the camera performance on this. Another thing about the camera performance on this, a lot of people make fun of people who use. It was very common in the past. I don't know if it's still common now, but it was very common to make fun of people who use their tablets as cameras. This smaller tablet is very easy for me to hold, and I could see myself using this as a main camera if I had to. If this is my only device, I could definitely hold this and use it as a main camera. It's still small enough that it's very easy to hold, and you do get the benefit of this larger display. One of the things with smartphones, when I take a photo on a smartphone, I often don't know what I really have until I take that photo and put it on something that has a larger display, like a laptop or any type of monitor or a tablet. With that larger display, with the photo blown up to a proportion where you can actually really see what you have. So with this, if I was using this as my main camera, I think I would know if I had a good photo or not, more so than I do when I'm using a smartphone. Also, price. That's the main thing here. I mean, with even smartphones like flagships going over for it, commonly going over $1,000 right now. This is much cheaper. Laptops, all the laptops I actually look at for my needs, brand new laptops are going to go for over $1,000, and that's also true of things like the flagship tablets like the iPad Pros. You're definitely going to be paying over $1,000 for those as well. So this is a much cheaper option if you decide to go with the iPad Mini. It just has so many advantages. Now, those are really the main reasons that I don't think I missed anything. That is why I would choose this as my main device if I had to. Now, there are some drawbacks. Now, although it is very light and portable, it's still not going to be as light as portable as a smartphone. A smartphone will always be the more lighter and portable option. Also, a smartphone can fit into a standard pants pocket, where this cannot do that. So it's always going to be more convenient and portable to carry around a smartphone than this. Also, even though I'm very happy with the camera performance of this, it's satisfactory to me. Smartphone, especially a flagship, is going to have much better cameras than this. Also, even tablets like the iPad Pro going to have much better cameras. iPad Pro tends to use the iPhone camera, the same camera that you would get in a flagship iPhone. So that's going to be a better camera performance. Also, although I get the 256, the 265 gigabytes. Is it 265 or 256? I think it's actually 256 gigabyte option that I have here. On the iPad Pro, if you decide to go with the Pro, you can have as many as 2 terabytes of space. So way more space options. And as I said, I like to have access to media on my devices locally. If I have a device that has 2 terabytes of space, then I can fill it up with so many movies, so many photos that it just has so much space that I just can't match that on this. Although it does have access to most smartphone applications on this, there are some smartphone applications that aren't available on the iPad. Even Apple has certain applications that are available on iOS that are not available for the iPad. Most notorious, I guess, are like things like the calculator and the weather app. But there's also third-party apps that are just designed just for smartphones. And sometimes there's some workarounds where you can get it on a tablet. But if you can make use of those workarounds. But in general, most apps will be accessible on like an iPad OS device like the iPad Mini. But there's going to be a few that are only smartphone only. You also, with talking about applications, especially when, and this is one of the things that really makes laptops and the use of that so crucial, because when we're talking about desktop applications, which are so necessary to do certain functions, you do not have access to desktop applications on the iPad. Now, the iPad apps are getting better all the time, and there are certain apps available for iPads that give you certain functions that approach desktop capabilities, but there's still a gap there. And if you especially need to use a desktop app, you just don't have the ability to do so if you're going to use the iPad. So that's a major problem that you really can't get around just yet until they add desktop apps, some type of solution to use that on the iPad. That's always going to be a problem. And so that's something that always, you always feel like you have to have some type of desktop option. And if I was using this device as my only device, that would be a major detriment to my workflow. And with the iPads, I already mentioned it, like iPad Pros, I already mentioned that you have much greater storage options and better camera. There also is more memory available for iPad Pros, and there's certain accessories that are available just for the iPad Pros, not for these iPad mini devices. So there is certain power and function that you do miss out if you're using the iPad mini. So yeah, those are some of the drawbacks. I think overall the benefits outweigh the drawbacks, but there are drawbacks to consider if you decide to use this as your main device. But that's just what I wanted to cover. I have shown the iPad mini, I think the first generation on a previous video, but I did want to talk about the iPad mini exclusively because it is one of my favorite devices, and it's a device that I will continue to use in the future. There's a lot of talk online about the potential for an iPad mini Pro. I don't really know if that's ever going to be a device that's released. I haven't heard anything definitive, but it'll be something I'm very interested in, especially if it's going to give me the greater storage options, the more memory, and the better camera in this small form factor, because it's the small form factor that makes me prefer this, and the price, small form factor and the price that makes me prefer this, having this, over using the iPad Pro. But I do want to thank you very much. If you have any other comments that you want to do about the iPad mini, you can just post your comments. Thank you for watching Digital Wandering. Signing off.